Dawson Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Welcome to my review for the Ben 10 Omni-Kix and movie figures. This is the next wave of the Omni-Kix figures that also includes this Ben spacesuit figure, which is from the movie. Let's go ahead and just dive right in. We'll go over this one first because I think it's the least exciting. I feel they've really gotten their mileage out of this Kid Ben mold. I think there's been a bunch of different figures. And this figure is fine for what it is. If you dug the spacesuit, or you want something from the movie, or you just like the Ben figures of all kinds, I think you'll like this one. I don't think it's bad, but I think it's the least exciting. I mean, the suit's okay, you know, green and gray, you know, I think it looks fine. And this is kind of cool that this raises up there, which is kind of neat. And it's the same head sculpt, like face mold we've been getting for all of them, which kind of looks like the creepy Chucky reboot face, which is a little bit weird. But, you know, it looks good for what it is. You have articulation here on the hands, you have a nice ball joint here, but you can't bend his wrists. You have a nice hinge joint here on his leg. A little bit more minimal articulation compared to some of them. I think that these are some of the most middle-of-the-road figures for me, the humanoid ones, and I'm not really all that excited by them, especially this one. So I think for those that really want it, they'll like it. I think the paint looks okay and decent, but it's just kind of a basic figure, and I've never been too huge of a fan of the creepy head sculpt here. Now onto the more exciting ones, Omni-Kix Forearms. I think the Omni-Kix things are kind of interesting, and it's been kind of interesting in general seeing them come up with these different versions of power-up ones, kind of like how we had Ultimate Aliens in the original series, and now we have all these different types of power-ups. And the Omni-Kix is kind of a basic one, but yields some kind of cool-ish ones here. Like this one I think looks decent. A little bit basic, but also kind of cool for a, you want to call him Humungosaur, because Humungosaur's over here. A Forearms design. Like, I kind of like the helmet. It's almost Power Rangers-y. It very much fits in line with what Forearms' head looks like, but it looks kind of like taking a visor aspect to it, which I think is neat. You have the Omnitrix symbol turned, and then some pretty basic colors, but I think it does a good job of standing out pretty well. It's not as colorful as regular Humungosaur, or obviously some of the other ones in the line, because he takes on more basic colors with the gray and whatnot, but I think for what he is, he has a pretty decent design, and continues the general quality of these figures. Like, you have some pretty good articulation hinge joints, elbow joints, swiveling, knee joint here, or leg joint here, and then a knee joint here, and some swiveling at the head, so kind of the same as you would get with regular Humungosaur. It just kind of continues those trends, and I think that these are overall pretty good quality figures. Like I said, I'm not too hot on the Kid Ben ones. I don't think that they're that exciting, but I think for the most part, even with the ones I don't like as much in this line, they're overall pretty well painted and decently articulated figures. Then we have Jetray here, who I think is fine. Unless I'm forgetting seeing it or reviewing it, we got right here Omni-Kix Jetray before we got a basic Jetray in the new line, which is kind of disappointing and weird, but I think his form here is fine. I think it looks better than the spacesuit upgrade he got in the movie, which I think kind of took away from the uniqueness, but the sort of black-green look here looks kind of cool, and there's a nice little bit of detail here, which is neat, but it basically does just look like Jetray in a spacesuit, and I think the colors are kind of boring looking, like nothing too exciting to write home about, but I think it's a decent figure of Jetray. I really do hope we get a regular one at some point. The way they release figures in this line has been so weird. I was just talking about how I think these are overall solid figures, but just the method of how they release them, like few and far between. We don't really get everybody. I don't really know how they prioritize things. I do kind of miss the way Bandai almost released everybody up until the end with Omniverse, so I do kind of miss that about them. But you do have some nice articulation here as well. Same thing with the swiveling and the hinge, elbow joint, leg joint here, knee joint here. You can't move his head though, unless mine is just really, really stuck, and I kind of don't want to press it too hard so I break this, but his head seems to be stuck in this position. Again, it could be really stuck, but I don't think so, at least as of this one. And these are kind of stuck in this position. I wouldn't expect you to be able to remove them since they're part of his body. It is kind of weird though. I feel like, aren't they always attached here, or is that just in the old design? It just seems kind of weird that his wings are kind of like that. And also of note, when you get this, the tail is separate and you just have to plug it in, but it's not that difficult. Alright, now on to what is probably my favorite of the bunch. I think the Omni-Kix armors for this wave are overall fine, and like I said, I dig Forearms, but I really like Humungosaurs. I think it's pretty cool. I really like the metallic-y bronze look off of the silver, and the sort of almost construction vibe it goes for, like with the mouth kind of looking like the shovel here, and then you have the feet here with that as well. I think even though it's not like the most standout bright color like I was talking about, these kind of create a more dull color palette compared to the regular aliens. I think it stands out a lot more. It's really unique looking, and I think looks really cool and is one of my more favorite, and I think one of the more unique ones of the Omni-Kix line. And then you get the same articulation here, you get your swiveling, you get your elbow joint, and then his legs and knee joints, even though, which is impressive because he's got a leg and a knee joint, even though he's got such small little stubby feet, but the knee joint hardly makes a difference. Like literally you can just move his toes back and forth like you're tickling them, which is just kind of weird. And then of note on the back, when you get it, also the tail here is separate as well as this little back piece, which the back piece is really easy to snap on. This one I felt like was a little bit more difficult to get on. Maybe it was just me, but it's super easy to do, not a big deal, just so that it can fit in the package and whatnot. So that's not a huge deal. But yeah, I really dig the design on this. Definitely my favorite of the bunch. If I had to recommend one out of this recent wave, it would be him because I think he's the coolest looking. Alright guys, that is it for this wave. Overall, it's still a solid wave. Like I said during the review, I think for the most part, Playmates has done a pretty good job with the figures, even if their release schedule is kind of strange. So I think if you like any of the characters you see here, or most of any of them, I think you'll be happy with them. They're pretty well articulated for what they're supposed to be and for their dimensions, and they're usually very well detailed, even my least favorite ones. So like I said, if I had to recommend one, it would be Humungosaur because I think he looks the coolest, but I think if you're a fan of any of these guys, you'll be happy with what you get. But anyway, that's about it for this one, guys. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can get notifications from my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.